Good evening, everybody. This is John Marola and Keeping It Real, Section 5 Football. This is our 6th episode, and we're just moving right along. Tonight, I have on my far right is George Giordano.
Hello, everyone.
Okay. And in the middle, our special guest this week from Channel 8 Sports Director Thad Brown.
Thanks, John. Appreciate having me on, man.
Thank you. Really appreciate you being here tonight, and just looking forward to listening to some of your insight, as far as football in Section 5, and we can just go from there. Do you want to start, or do you want me to go?
Well, I'd like to say hi to Thad as well. We've gone back a number of years,
oh, man.
Obviously.
Both you guys. I mean, this is going back a way. This is great. This is like revisiting like 2005.
Right.
No offense. We're just saying that we're all old, I guess. That's what happens. But
we're coming up on 20 years.
Yeah, exactly.
So it seems like yesterday, but we've had very good luck with our previous guest. John DiTullio was with us.
He's awesome.
And I'm fortunate enough to be filling in for Paul Burgandy, the longtime Hall of Fame coach, who's presently out in Florida, enjoying the sunshine. Last week we had James Johnson here from the DNC.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're bringing a little bit of something different with the, the television piece of it.
Mm-hmm.
So welcome aboard. And thanks for coming down and spending some time with us.
Yeah, it should be fun. Been so long. Well, I'm up to like 25 years almost with Section 5 sports here. Did some high school stuff in Binghamton before that. It's been a long time. Obviously played football here too. So 30 years almost somewhat involved. It's gotten to the point now where not only am I covering kids of people I covered, but for example, Calvin Betts is now the basketball coach at Rush Henrietta. I remember covering him when he was a kid, and that stuff like that makes me feel old. But it was great. I haven't talked to Calvin. I wish I had a chance to say hello to him. But it's awesome to see a great player like that come back into Section 5 and give back. And I know he's not the only one, but it's the most recent one, and it's fun for me to see that stuff.
That's awesome. That really is. That's really cool.
It's a thrill, obviously, to cover the athlete who becomes the coach. But I can tell you that I've coached many a young man's father, second generation, and I'm waiting for someone to come in and say, Coach, you coached my grandfather back in the days. When that happens, I think that'll be it. Yeah, that'll be it. I'll be sitting in the bleachers with everybody else. But it's a passion. It's a labor of love for us too, as we've been involved in the high school football ranks for a long, long time. People have come and people have gone, but Section 5 football seems to be, a big part of our lives.
For me too. I do miss the way my schedule works now. I don't actually cover a whole lot of games anymore. I'm off on Friday and Saturday, or traveling on Saturday for Bills games. And those Friday and Saturday nights were one of the best memories. Just for us, it's a thrill to try and chase around to different spots. I'm at Honey Falls. Can I make it up to Victor for the second half of that game? And then I got to get a couple quick touchdowns there. Maybe I can catch the very end of Brighton on my way back into town. And it's a little game for us to see how many highlights you can get, how many kids you can put on TV. Trying to show off all the different hard work, all the different talent. Because, even for teams that aren't great, 3-5, 2-6 seasons, there are still talented kids there that deserve to have time on TV. So, we try to get around to all of them. And then, when you're out there tonight, you're trying to do your best to feature as much as possible. And it becomes, for us in TV, kind of the game within the game, and one of my best stories is, at Channel 8, we do a thing on Friday called Football Frenzy.
I love it.
And I appreciate that a lot. Yeah. So the very first week we do this, my job was to cover a game in Geneva, and then it was HFL Newark at Newark. So the Geneva game wasn't very exciting. I think it was 7-6, and I left at halftime. And it's on a short trip to Newark. So I get to Newark like very late in the third quarter, and I don't remember who was up, but it was like 18-14. So in my business, when you get to a situation like that, you obviously want somebody to score, so you get some reasonable highlights. But if the team who's behind scores, that's great, because now you've gotten the highlights that matter. So let's see if I can put this back together properly to tell the full story here. So I think it was Newark that was up. So HFL early in the fourth quarter scores a touchdown. Great, I'm all set. Newark, HFL's gotten the lead now, right? Newark with about 3 minutes left, drives down, and they're able to score a touchdown. So they take the lead, by 3 points or whatever. HFL comes back with about 2 minutes to go. Quick drive. They score a touchdown, take the lead. So I've got 3 lead changes now. So Newark with like a minute and a half left, pass, touchdown. They take the lead with 35 seconds to go. Now I'm like, oh, this is great highlight. This is, you guys can stop now. I'm good. We can go home.
Icing on the cake
right.
coming.
Well, HFL down 3 or 4. They run the kickoff back for a touchdown with 30 seconds to go, right?
Yep.
And the sidelines going crazy. One of the best games I've ever seen. Well, Newark still had 15 seconds left. They take a squib kick, catch it, run it back to like the 40, one pass to the 45. They have a Hail Mary chance. Now, it's high school football, and Newark's at their own 45. You guys know there's not many quarterbacks that are getting to the end zone there.
Yeah.
So Newark tries a ball down the sideline. HFL kid's all over it, just like whacks at it with his hand. But the ball spins up in the air, comes down. Newark kid catches off the deflection, scores at the buzzer, and 6 touchdowns in a quarter and change, 3 in the last minute and a half. It was easily the best high school football game I've ever covered, short of a championship.
In less time.
Yeah. And I got all those highlights in like an hour. I'll go to games and be there for an hour and a half, 2 hours, and get nothing but a quarterback sneak. So that was my favorite in terms of doing this job. My favorite high school football memory.
Oh, that's awesome. That is really awesome. Your football frenzy. We were talking to James about how we look forward when he comes out with his all his football, his high school stuff, and we're like little kids looking. And I'm the same way with you with that on the Friday, the football frenzy. I can't wait to get home and watch it.
We appreciate that. Yeah.
You guys do a really, really good job.
And we hope everybody enjoys it. It used to be a Friday and Saturday thing. There aren't enough games on Saturday much anymore to do it, but it is fun. I know I talked to a lot of coaches who, that they'll play their game and they'll come home and watch us because we're going to show you 6, 7, 8 other games. And you can just see kind of everything that happened in Section 5 in one night. And again, it's a good energy show for us. And like I said, going around to the different games, trying to get as much as you can is a fun little challenge.
Yes, it is.
What can you share with us maybe some of the great players that you've covered? Obviously with your 20 years of experience and being on the sideline, helping promote Section 5 football, can you tell us a little bit about some of the best players that you've seen and some of their, better plays or better seasons?
Yeah, I can remember. I'll tell you what, it all always runs together. I have a tough time come back next year because, for us, it's not just football. It's football and soccer and volleyball. And then it's hockey and basketball and wrestling. And then it's lacrosse and baseball. So, when I get back around to the football season, I barely remember who won the championship the year before. But I do remember certainly teams and eras. So I think Averin Collier in Churchville, and he had a brother that was really good. Those 2 kids were great to watch. One of the first really, really good players, got to go back to Webster 02-03, back when Webster was one team. I can't remember the kid's name. It was John or Jack something, but there was a running back there that was phenomenal, 2 years in a row. And then obviously
not Stenslick.
No, before then.
Oh, really?
Yeah. We're going. His mom was my daughter's kindergarten teacher because we live in Webster now. So I apologize to the kid. I can't remember his name. Let's see, trying to think. The quarterback at Aquinas who went to Penn State, Jake Zembeck. Yeah. Like I said, I know that I can see the picture of the kid in my head and the helmet, but the names all run together at this point. But there's been so many.
Would it be Garetano?
That's who it is. Carl Garetano from Webster.
Yep.
Good call,
oh,
Johnny.
Yeah.
He was so good. But it's just, there's a kid at Hornell who, little running back who broke the Section 5 record, I think, for career yards. That was about 10 years ago. That's another one I remember. That's pretty much the top of my list, though, in terms of like the best kids. But with football, it's been more about the teams, the stories. Obviously following Aquinas all those years was fun. Bunch of state championships.
Yep.
The city teams, the East High teams. East High is right around the corner from the station. So when you work in television, people will sometimes call and say, "Why don't you cover Brockport? Why don't you cover to this school?" And we tell them, look, from our point of view, we're trying to get the most kids on. So it's a better explanation if I use basketball. If you go to Greece, I can go make a 15-minute to Greece and get Arcadia, Olympia, Athena, and Odyssey in one evening.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if I go to Brockport, that's the only game I'm getting because it's the only school out there.
Time.
Right, exactly. So because East High is, no joke, a minute and a half from the station, we are there all the time just because it's just such an easy trip.
Convenient.
Exactly. So it's not less convenient, more practical, I think is the way to put it.
There you go.
So I've spent so many of my Friday nights started with an East game at 5:00. I've been to so many, and those teams have, almost always been good, exciting, able to score lots of points, and they run a great program there. So that's one of the other big memories from football season, covering football for me.
Yeah.
One of the things we talked to James about last week was his career, how he got started, what prompted him to become a, paper guy. And maybe you could share some of your,
Sure.
What happened to set you off, to get you going in the right direction, and what was the road that you traveled?
So I wanted to do this from high school. I was like most kids growing up. You wanted to be the professional quarterback or play baseball, and you get to like sophomore year of high school and you realize, okay, that ain't happening. I'm 5 foot nothing, 100 nothing. We're not going that far.
Yeah.
So about the time that happened, I kind of started to understand that I was a pretty good writer, and I was not afraid to talk in front of a microphone. And going the media route with sports was quickly attractive. That was also about the time that Dan Patrick and Keith Olbermann became popular for their sports centers and, all the witty lines. And they made it fun to watch somebody talk about the scores of the game that night. So, those two things and that timing, kind of gravitated me towards the job. And Aquinas at that time had a nascent media program. And Ted Mancini was the teacher. I got to give him a lot of credit.
Yeah.
He was the principal for a long time.
Yep.
He was a great to have a dream like that, or a goal like that, and to have it kind of be in the infant stage. He did a really good job of kind of, helping to let that bloom a little bit, for lack of a better term, to kind of give you opportunities best he could, at a Catholic school in the 90s where funds and you don't have all this equipment that you guys have now, or phones with cameras on them that you can just turn into a broadcast anytime. So at Aquinas, I was able to do some of the in-house school TV when they opened the new gym. It's the current gym, was the new gym when I was there. My senior year, the first basketball game, I did play-by-play for that. So that got me started. And then I went to Hofstra University, great communications program, did all the things I could do. I was on the radio station, TV station, sports editor for the newspaper, covered teams, did everything I could do. And while I was in college, my mom, who was a teacher at Mercy, worked with John Kutchko's wife, Charla, who was doing public relations there. And my mom told her, hey, my son's into sports. Could he come in and talk to John? So I eventually became an intern for John, impressed him. And then when I got out of school, there was an opening as an editor. And, for people to understand kind of the world of television, most of us, and when I mean most, I mean like 99.8% of us, do not walk into an on-air job. Almost all of us start as a writer, a producer, more likely an editor and photographer. So that was my route. I was behind the scenes editing video, then became a news photographer, eventually got a job in Binghamton where I did sports a little bit at a time on TV, but that was the first time I did professional sports. Did that for a year, and about the summer of 2000, John hired me back at Channel 8, and I've been there, ever since, kind of working my way up the ranks. So that's it's not an unusual route in terms of the high school and college part of it, but working in one city for nearly 25 years now is ridiculously unusual in television. I had a friend of mine, Corey Heppola, who now lives in Minnesota. He's from Minnesota. His route through television was Montana, Elmira, Rochester, Houston. What's a smaller city in Texas? I should know it right now. You guys know geography.
San Antonio?
No.
Permian.
That's a good one. So he had a smaller market in Texas. I'll think of it later. And then he moved to Houston, and then he moved to Minneapolis. And the point is that he did all that in about a 10-year span. That's a normal TV route. That's average. What I did is unusual. I've been very lucky to be able to work in my hometown for so long. Yeah. It's
got to be such an advantage and a thrill.
Oh, man. Having my grandmother be able to watch her grandson on TV she was so excited for that. And to be able to give her that little gift was one of the best parts. And that, she passed about 20 years ago, but I mean, got a few years to see her grandson on TV and loved every minute of it.
That's amazing. That really is.
That's my movie star grandson.
Exactly.
There, right?
Yeah, keep telling our friends that
should
stuff.
be in
Yeah.
movies.
Yeah.
Know? So, yeah, all great stuff. Obviously, it's like I said earlier, a labor of love. We're not making a ton of money in a small market. Obviously, it's a chance to get out, pay back a little bit to the community, and give yourself a chance to take pride in what we see out there on the field.
Try to do that as much as possible too. I think everybody, when you're in this business, you do try to give back and participate in the community as much as possible. It's easier for me, knowing people, being from here and everything. But yeah, that's kind of a part of the job. You are I don't want to say someone people look up to, but certainly someone people know, and you're aware of that and try and use that as best you can.
And for me, when I was at Aquinas,
yep.
I went through the Aquinas and then I got out. And luckily enough, I've said before, luckily enough, I had my father with me. And he said, did you ever think about coaching? And I said, no, not really. And then I started looking around. And then I got a call back in 1982 from the guy over there looking for a freshman coach. And I'm just out of high school. And I'm like, okay. And that was going on almost 40 years ago.
Man.
And but that's how things started, through that. But now we get to the point, and Paul and I happen to retire at the same time, Paul Burgandy. And we're just looking at, we go to games, every Friday night we pick a game on Monday where we're gonna go. We go watch a Section 5 game. And then we just said, you know what? This needs something. There's something. And we just kind of came up with this, and basically just to let you know, this is just something this is in our blood. I get it. That football thing, it's just, and I guess I've told people this is what I do after I retire from coaching.
It's not a bad gig.
No,
it's fun though. It's fun to be able to talk like this,
and it's taking me out of my comfort zone. Talking football is talking football. Football is just, but everything around it, the behind the scenes, like when you were saying when you first started, you were editing. I'm getting into the editing of all this too, and it's fun. It gets me frustrated at times, but
hey, welcome to my world. You're gonna. The thing about this, you're gonna learn fast. This is a fun and I'll tell you what, professionally, this is a rough deal for us in local television because there's so many other avenues for people to be able to find news and get news. Now, there's still a role for us, which is great, but it has become harder and harder. That said, being able to do this, I mean, I do a certain amount of podcasting and broadcasting and stuff from home all the time too. Having this opportunity and making it open for you guys to be able to, enjoy and like follow your passion, I think is fantastic for the most part. And some people take it the wrong way, but I'm glad you guys are able to do this.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. Like I said, I've had my little hiccups along the way, but I've learned from them, and hopefully I don't repeat them again. And I guess this is what we do. You know what I'm saying? So,
Thad, earlier this evening before we got on the air here, we talked a little bit about maybe what your message would be to young athletes, that high school freshman, as he gets into his career. We're talking high school football now, but and of course you played high school football. Let's just talk in general about what athletes are to expect. What your thought is about their development, parents, what their involvement is, and we did have a nice discussion about that earlier tonight. Maybe you could share some of those thoughts.
Yeah, one of the things that I've seen a lot in 20-something years of covering high school sports, we kind of joke about it in the media. The worst part about high school sports is the parents, and that's not to crucify parents or talk about them, that negatively. But when you think about the different parts of what goes into high school sports, coaches, athletes, parents are the ones that they're not as involved. And the thing that I would like to see parents do, and maybe even some administrators understand more often, is what is the goal of high school sports? What are you trying to accomplish? For me, I've always thought about the good things that high school sports can produce. You teach a kid about teamwork, about hard work, about discipline, about, being able to work with a team, communication, being able to handle a pressure situation. And those things happen for high school athletes whether you win or lose. And I think we've seen parents get too wrapped up in the wins and the losses, the championships. Parents, I think, and again, some administrators, they see high school sports, or the purpose of high school sports at the varsity level is to facilitate a championship, which is not what it should be about. It should be about facilitating a lesson. And you can, again, do that, win or lose, no matter, who comes out on top. So there's a lot of concern. We talked about the game in New Jersey, the high school basketball game a couple weeks ago, where I forget who the two teams were, but a team hit a shot at the buzzer. It was counted at first. The referees talked, and it should have counted. It was a good basket. Referees talked, decided to disallow the basket. And yes, it was the wrong call. Unfortunately, the officials made that call. But the reaction on social media was accusations of racism, accusations of fixing, of trying to, have one team win for financial reasons, whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
And the focus in that discussion is on the winning and not about the lessons, not about the teaching. And I think parents should back off a little bit. Another experience I've had with this that's kind of led me to this way is my daughter's played club volleyball for the last 5-6 years. And it's a fun experience. Now that I could have a whole different discussion about the state of youth paid sports. We'll leave that for another day.
Okay.
But the thing that always stuck out to me, so my daughter would play like under 12, under 13, under 14. And for people who don't follow youth volleyball or how it works, the typical game action for a team like that is you'd play a weekend tournament. So you play 3 matches on Saturday, 3 matches on Sunday. Sometimes you play a couple on Friday. And at a U13 tournament where there's so many games going on at a time, we've been to these tournaments where there might be 100 matches happening at the same time. Mm-hmm. They don't have scoreboards for all of them. They don't have actual adults to, keep score. So the kids have to do the work. Mm-hmm. So you'll have your 13-year-old playing in a match while other 13-year-olds who are kind of in their tournament group are keeping score. So as invariably happens when 13-year-old girls, or girls of any age, frankly, they're not going to pay attention occasionally. So yeah, you'll be in set 1 of match 2. It's 9-4, right? Mm-hmm. And your team will score a point, and the girls will forget to flip over the score. Well, you'll have parents screaming, point, come on, flip the score. And it's always boggled my mind to think, what are you doing? Like, this is not important. This is U13 girls volleyball.
That's why the girls are doing it. Right, they don't have officials.
And think about what the point of that is. A, you're teaching the girls how to work, right? That's point number 1. Exactly. Yeah. Well, yeah, and teamwork off the court, about understanding the game, when is a point, knowing how to, do your part. They're doing more than just keeping score. So there's things being learned there. But even for the girls who are on the court, yes, the point you scored was not counted. That's not fair. What are you going to do about it? Are you going to get mad? Are you going to lose focus? Are you going to not do the things you're supposed to do? Mm-hmm. Or are you going to understand, hey, that was a bad break. Let's keep playing. Let's overcome that. Even if you're on the other side of it, we lost that point, but the refs missed it, or the scorekeepers missed it. Mm-hmm. What are you going to do? Are you going to, ride that? Are you going to get sad? I mean, there are so many lessons to be learned, whether the score is actually turned over or not. But yet the thing the parents are focused on is screaming at 13-year-old girls to make sure they flip 9 to 10. And this is the thing, because it starts there and then it goes up to the varsity level. Mm-hmm. So when you have actual stakes, when there are sectional championships, when there are state championships on the line, this is where I think the genesis of parents who just go bananas on an official for missing a call. When these officials are guys who are like us, doing this out of a labor of love, primarily. Yeah, they get paid. But it's like $80. It's not, they're not making living money for that. So for parents to think about and understand better, why is my kid doing this? It's not so they can win championships. Because if your kid wins a championship, there's very little benefits going to come from it. Mm-hmm. They're going to have the memory of winning a trophy. That's cool. But how many times have you talked about, or we almost laugh at, oh, there's the kid that his best moment was the championship he won in high school. I mean, that's the lesson that parents should remember, that if that is the high point of your kid's life, then you have failed as a parent. So let's focus on the things that matter with high school sports. Teaching a kid how to be disciplined, teaching a kid how to work hard, teaching a kid how to work with others, how to be coached, how to overcome adversity. Those are the things that all matter to you as a parent, not the score. Now, I'm not saying don't keep score. Yeah. Keep score. Yep. Make it matter to the kid so he learns all those things. But you as a parent, parents need to dial that back 1,000%. And, the world we live in, where it's social media reactive and highly charged and emotional. And I know there's, parents feel like there's pressure on kids to, well, if they don't win this game, then college coaches won't see them and won't get a scholarship. And I mean, in a lot of cases, that's exceptionally far from the truth. But I think the other problem is we're talking about parents who have busy lives themselves. We have, mom and dad both work 50 hours a week. Yeah. When do they have time to understand the best path to get a scholarship for a kid? So I'll excuse them for not understanding how that works, but I won't excuse them for berating officials. I won't excuse them for berating coaches. I won't excuse them for going on social media like those New Jersey people did about the outcome of one playoff game. Those are the things that I want to see dialed back. Yep. And parents understand that, in that playoff game we talked about before, sure, it was unfortunate the team that had scored the winning basket legally did not get credit for it. But really what happens there is one team learns about winning and one team learns about losing. No matter which way the call goes, that's the same. So that should be the focus, not worrying about the call was wrong, therefore the world has ended as we know it. I mean, the superintendent for the school talked about legal action. And I get it. You're probably feeling pressure from parents to defend your kids. Exactly. Yeah, right. But, I would want the superintendent to say, hey, we filed our protest with the governing body of sports. They said no. Now the kids got to learn from it. Mm-hmm. This is what we do. We teach kids. We don't force kids or make kids win championships. We make kids learn lessons. And no matter win or lose, that was going to happen there.
You're teaching life skills.
Yes.
This is going to last you the rest. We're not talking about a football game or one game or this. You're talking about putting something in a young boy or young girl's mind that will be with them for the rest of their life when there's bigger and more important things going on. Getting an education, getting a family, and your life skills.
Mm-hmm. And being able to deal with those too. One of the other things that I haven't liked, this isn't a football thing, but in New York State, and I'm sure other states do this too, for soccer and hockey, at the state championship level, they actually don't decide a champion if it's tied. They'll go tied and they'll go overtime, but they won't do a shootout. They won't go to penalty kicks in soccer or a shootout in hockey. And the argument is that those shootouts are not a fair determinant of a champion, which I think we all agree is probably accurate.
Yes.
But I've always hated that because you are robbing the kids of the chance to learn there. You don't teach them anything by having the game end in a tie. Make them go to a shootout, make one team win, one team lose, and make the kids learn. So that's what I think the focus of high school sports
or play overtime until someone scores.
Well, right. I mean, you get into the questions about can the kids physically bear? Exactly, right. But I mean, if they can handle it, sure. Yeah. Either way, learn the lesson. Because you have a free chance there, as we talked about before. You have a chance there to teach a kid about losing at a big level without having big level consequences. No one loses a job. No coach is getting fired. No one's getting divorced. There's no one has to worry about paying their bills because they lost. But you still feel the loss. You feel the emotion. You feel the pressure. You feel the angst. But you don't have to worry about the life consequences. And the thinking is, when you do lose a job when you're 30, and you got to look at your wife and your kids and say, hey, I don't know how we're making ends meet this week. At least you've gone through the emotion and understand, have maybe a plan and a strategy for, all right, I feel this way. Now here's how I act from it going forward.
This isn't your first rodeo.
Exactly.
Something when you're younger taught you this
which
dilemma or whatever.
The whole point of high school and college, to teach you for life.
People today, it's just so money. And one thing I try to tell football kids is, we were talking about, I want to be a quarterback. I want to be the receiver, and I was saying, I learned this from when I was working at Aquinas, and we had Dron and Jameer Jones, and the college coaches are coming in, and I forgot who the coach was, an assistant coach from Clemson, and he told me, he goes, I said, well, Dron is this, and Jameer's, he goes, Coach, he goes, you know what we look for? He goes, we look for athletes. And he goes, our linemen are taught to play center, guard, and tackle. Our skill kids, receiver, slot, some quarterback, and running back. And I started, thinking about that. And, I tell kids, I work at Northeast High School. It used to be the old Charlotte. And I tell kids all the time, when they play in sports, be multiple. You're selling yourself. to these colleges. So just don't tell me I'm a receiver. Play receiver, play slot, play quarterback, play running back. Make yourself marketable. When you're a lineman, play center, guard, and tackle.
Mm-hmm.
You know, make yourself. This is what today's age is. You know what I'm saying? You're selling yourself, and along with your grades and what kind of person you are, and you know the whole package. But you know, I learned a lot that time. That I forget his name now. He was a defensive coordinator at Clemson, and just a great guy just to talk to. You know, and,
it's funny you bring that up to that point. I did a story a few years ago on you know youth sports and kind of the way it can envelop a kid's life. I mean, you know, football isn't quite the same because you don't have like club football in the off season like you do with all the rest of these sports. So I went and talked to a whole bunch of Division I coaches, Wayne Wilson over at RIT, Jimmy Boeheim, Quentin, the former women's coach at Syracuse, Gary Gate, lacrosse coach, you know, all the different, you know, kind of major college coaches. And one of the things that I was maybe not surprised about, but interested in is that those coaches almost to a man, Jimmy Boeheim, no, but the rest, yes, said that they like a kid that plays more than one sport, that goes and does something different, that shows that they have, you know, a different ability, coordination, skill wise. So it's not too dissimilar at all from what you're talking about, that, you know, don't pigeonhole yourself into being a guard or a defensive tackle or a, you know, a free safety, you know, or don't just be the hockey player 12 months out of the year. That's not what college coaches want, no matter how much, you know, maybe the local clubs or the local coaches who might benefit financially from you being there all the time might tell you that.
Yes,
you know?
Exactly.
That I have a question that might be off the topic a little bit. You've now moved into the highest rank of football, the NFL, covering our Buffalo Bills.
Yeah.
Tell us about a day that goes into when, from the time you wake up in the morning to the time you get back home, what it's like to cover the Buffalo Bills.
It's a great question. So I'll give you a home game day. This is the easy one. So right now, on top of it, let's say a game's at 1:00, which the Bills don't play a whole lot of those anymore, but they used to, you know, and that's kind of the typical day. So my wake up call is usually 6:30 in the morning at home, and I'm in the station by about 7:30 because we have a special called Buffalo Kickoff Live that's on at 11:00 every single day. So in order to get there by 11, actually prior to that, one of my jobs is to get some video of the Bills players arriving for the day. And that becomes the beginning of our show.
Okay.
They come in about 10:00 in the morning. Yep. So in order for me to make it there, I've got to be in the parking lot by 9:30 or so because of traffic. To get to the parking lot at 9:30, I've got to be out of the station by 7:30. So 6:30 wake up call, 7:30 depart, arrive 9:30, bring all my equipment in. Everything gets x-rayed. Some stadiums will sniff it with dogs, whatever.
You go in with a photographer. Or
so,
you on your own?
For home games with a photographer, I'm on the road by myself. So for this situation, I'll go in with a photographer. We will record the Bills players coming in. From 11 to 12, I'm doing the show, you know, and then from 12 to 1, I'm usually on the field trying to get social media of the Bills warming up. It's super popular on Twitter, different shots of Josh Allen. I mean, Josh Allen doing anything is popular on X and Instagram these days.
Exactly.
So I'll try and gather as much of that stuff as I can. And it's fun too, because, you know, like they talked about before with the challenge of getting all the different high school games, trying to get the best social media content is kind of the challenge for the day. So that goes to 1. Game is 1 to 4. Then we do interviews with players in the locker room from 4 to about 5. If I have a show at 6, which is more often than not, I'll be doing editing for the various. Usually what I'll do is I'll have one report at the beginning of the show and one report in the sportscast. So I'll have to take the sound bites that I've all collected, put 2 little stories together, 2 kind of storylines, and edit together some sound bites. And obviously my photographer is helping with that as well. Live report 6:01, live report 6:20. Then we will record our game day recap. It's our online discussion of the game. That'll happen about 6:40, 6:50. Drive back at 7. When we get back to the station, somewhere in the neighborhood of 8:39, I write a column after the game, my own reactions. I'll produce stories for the 11:00 show, which will be largely similar to what we did at 6. So it's not that hard. But I'm usually on a good day, I'm out of there at 10:00 after arriving at 7:30 in the morning.
Wow.
So I do that 8 or 9 home games a year.
But you're saying they're not all 1 o'clock games.
But not anymore. No, yeah, it's different with
the 4:30.
Yeah, to be honest, the night games are the worst.
Yeah. They gotta be because you get home.
But usually, so for a night game, home or on the road, I'm done working about 3-4 in the morning. Everyone home.
Now, your perspective has got to have changed. You talked earlier in this interview about covering high school and where that actually is in the grand scheme of things. Now you go on a Sunday where it is, I'm feeding my family by winning, making a catch, making a throw, making a pick. Very different.
Oh, yeah.
Coach McDermott is, again, feeding his family. His whole future and his staff's future is dependent on outscoring the other team, bottom line. And now it's to win a Super Bowl or not win a Super Bowl. So as you obviously have worked up the ladder, I could see where this high school level has become put more into perspective. Something that for us, we've never really gone beyond the high school. You know, we dabble a little bit in college, local schools like a U of R, Fisher, or something like that. But, you know, to go beyond even the top tier colleges into the best product on the planet, you know? And so it's obviously something that you had to grow into.
Yeah, I think
into your new role.
I think the thing that I've always been, how do I want to say this? The part of the NFL that I kind of gravitate towards when you cover, because when you cover a team like I do, where, you know, not only am I there every game, but I'm also there during the week, at least once a week in the locker room, talking to the guys and not just talking to them about the upcoming game, you know, talking to them about, you get to know them a little bit, you know, you talk to them, hey, you know, how's the wife doing? Congratulations on your new baby, that kind of stuff. You know, I wouldn't say we're friends, but you know these guys a little bit. You know them as men instead of just football players. And as such, I've always been interested and fascinated with not the Josh Allen, not the Stephon Diggs, not the guy who makes $15 million, but the guy at the bottom of the roster who, like you said, has to be there to feed his family. For example, this year, not that he's feeding his family, but AJ Klein was on his couch not playing football. And out of nowhere, he gets a call from the Bills. And within a week, he's playing in a playoff game, you know, starting in a playoff game. And that happens in the NFL so often, where there's a guy who has to keep himself in shape. And when I mean work out by himself, no trainers, no coach yelling at him. You need to be so self-motivated to stay ready for a call that might never come. And then when you do get that call, you have to be ready, because if you're not, they're going to find out in 3 seconds and you'll be gone just as fast. And how hard it is for those guys to continue to work, to go from team to team, to move around, to not know when your next paycheck is coming from, and to do it, you know, in the best football league in the world, where, you know, you're talking about the 1% of the 1%. And I don't think people appreciate that enough, because, you know, we all have fantasy teams and we look at, you know, the 20th best quarterback. I was, that guy sucks. I don't want him. That quarterback is so ridiculously good to be the 20th best quarterback. We don't appreciate that enough. And by the same token, the guy who's the 53rd guy on the roster is still one of the best football players ever and has to stay at that level to continue to draw a paycheck. It is a fascinating struggle to see that on a regular basis. And, you know, again, that I'm sure in part has kind of guided the look at high school now, to where you understand, yeah, you know, if you're a parent and you're mad about your kid not winning a championship or not getting play time, but, you know, here's where it really matters. Here's where that stuff is literally, you know, not necessarily life or death, but survival, staying in that business, keeping a job, and being able to develop some of those skills. You're not going to be the guy who continues to work out when you don't have a team to play for, if all you care about as a high school kid is winning a championship. You're going to be that guy if you care about doing the work day in and day out. If you care about, you know, not that you won or lost, but that you played it the right way. That's what's going to make the difference when you get to those higher levels.
Yep, you're exactly right.
One of the things that I've often wondered, there's got to be times when things are heated. They lost the playoff game to Kansas City. I watched your telecast after. Things are said. Critical things are said, your opinion or your co-host's opinion. Does that ever come back to, like, there's Thad, and he gave us the business last week. Are we going to give him the time of day, or are they really professional about that? Saying, well, maybe Thad was right about that. Tell us a little bit about your relationship after covering a controversial call management issue, something where, it's a 50-50 call and maybe it just didn't go your way that night. You're critical of the play physically, strategically, emotionally. It's got to happen all the time.
That's a great question, George. Let me start out by saying it this way. So if you guys took 53 coaches you knew, how many of them off the top of your head, just saying in general, would probably handle most situations professionally out of 53? 50, 51 probably?
50, I was thinking.
Yeah. Something like that, right? NFL locker room is exactly the same. That's people a lot of time will ask me, like, what are the guys like? I'm like, well, look, they're like 53 people you work with. There's a couple jerks.
Yep.
There's a couple people who are really nice. And the other 50 are somewhere in the middle, probably like you are.
Yep.
To your point, it's about the same way with being professional. Now, I will tell you a story. About a few years ago, Sal Capaccio, who works at radio in Buffalo, he put a tweet out comparing Jordan Poyer to Jamal Adams. At the time, Jamal Adams was one of the best safeties in the NFL, and Jordan Poyer was good, but not at the all-pro status. So I quote tweeted that by saying, hey, look, Jordan Poyer's been good, but he's not that guy. Like Jamal Adams is the guy, and Jordan Poyer is not. Now, since they've gone opposite directions. But at the time, it wasn't an unfair tweet. This was during COVID, so there wasn't a whole lot of interaction with us in the locker room, but it didn't matter. The next practice I came out to, the media comes out, and we're all out there where the guys are stretching. And Jordan Poyer, from 30 yards away in the middle of the field, doing leg stretches, goes, hey, Thad Brown, I thought you were on my side. Oh. He's screaming this. So everybody, I thought you were on my side, Thad. What the heck? And then most of the media didn't know. We don't follow each other's Twitter feed thoroughly, know?
Yeah.
So Sal, who knew what was going on, he had to explain it to some people. I had to explain it to some people. And, during the practice, there's a point where the defensive backs kind of come over close to us, and my job is to be there to get video. So I'm standing there. He's still chirping. Thad, thought you're on my side, Thad. Like, and he's not. It's not a joke to him. He wants to, belittle me because he's mad about it.
Yeah.
And so the way it worked then is we had to do Zooms for interviews. We couldn't actually interview the guy. So when Jordan Poyer's Zoom came up, I made sure to get, on the list. And the way I handled it was, hey, look, there are so many really good safeties in the NFL. Like I said, they're all the 1% of the 1%.
Yes.
What gives you the confidence to believe that you're so much better that you get mad about something like that? And he answered the question. It wasn't earth-shattering, but the point is if you talk to these guys fairly and are treating them with respect and handling yourself in a professional manner, 50 out of 53 will do the same to you.
Yeah.
Now look, it is part of my job sometimes to say that guy was terrible, and that guy is not going to like that. But again, if you're fair and you play it both ways, and I try to do it that way, and I know there are Bills employees who have told me that they feel like I do, so I feel like I'm going in the right direction. Then for the most part, the guys will treat you with the same kind of respect.
Yeah. Now let me show you or tell you a little something. I do security in the summertime for a private security company.
I think I've seen you a few games. Yeah.
I'm at Fisher.
Yeah.
So I've been doing Fisher for 11 years, and I'm in the dorms with the players, coaches, and all that. So, like you said, you get to know them.
Yeah.
And you said I have one story. It's just when you talk to the players. They talk about them now. It's a job. They have to feed their family. You get it. College, it's still kind of a job.
For sure.
Then I always go to them, hey, where'd you go to high school? And as soon as I say that, you just see like the little boy in them. And they all come out and it's like, oh, I went to this school down south. And they become that little boy again. Now, my one story is with Sammy Watkins. So Sammy and I, we'd see each other every day at Fisher, hey, what's up? And I said to him, tell me about high school. Where'd you go to high school? Went to high school down in St. Pete, down in Florida. I go, what was your best game? He goes, my best game, he said, I scored 7 touchdowns in one game.
Jeez.
I go, oh, my God, it's amazing.
That's the 1% of the 1% right there.
Yeah. I go, wow. He goes, you know what else? I go, no. He goes, I never got tackled. I go, what? I go, were you just running night or streaks or whatever?
Yeah.
He goes, no, I was, running our routes and getting catches. He goes, you want to know something else? What's that? He goes, our team, we were 13-0. The team we were playing, they were 13-0. It was a state semifinal game.
Mm-hmm.
And it just shows you like they were pros when they were 15, 16-year-olds.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people are like, well, my son's going to be this or going to be. They don't want to hear going to be. They they want it now.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you don't get it now, you're gone tomorrow. And you've seen
at that level. Yep.
And I've seen it, and you've seen so many guys come through there, and it's just amazing. But I'll tell you one thing, and I don't want to spend a lot of about this is I met McDermott, and just an awesome guy.
Mm-hmm.
And no matter what, Brandon Bean, Terry Pagula, I've met them all. They're just awesome people. And in my eyes, whatever moves they make, I have total trust in them.
Mm-hmm.
And I've said to them, thank you. I walked up to Terry Pagula one day because we used to wave to each other all the time. I just said, I want to say thank you. And for everything that you've done as far as being a Buffalo Bills fan. I mean, we weren't like this,
right?
For a long time.
Well aware.
So, you got to be kind of, give these guys time. They're great people, and they're going to do what's best for the organization. Mm-hmm. They're all about the Bills Mafia, and everything about their fans and everything. And they're really, really, really awesome people.
They are good men. I've always, respected both guys, especially Brandon Bean and Sean McDermott, who we deal with a whole lot more than Terry Pagula. But what they've done for the Bills organization and restoring hope and pride and fun.
Yes.
Fun, maybe the best part,
yes.
That people can enjoy a Bills season. This has been a heck of an accomplishment. After all those years, all those coaches who tried, all those GMs who tried and failed, it is no small accomplishment.
Now, I gave each of them, my last day up at Bills camp last year, I gave them each this little, the thing you put on your desk, and it's like a nameplate.
Yeah.
So on the front of the plate, on all three of them, it said, "We didn't come this far to come this far."
Mm-hmm.
So they have that up, and now I've seen little interviews with Sean, and I've seen
it's there.
So I can't wait to, and then on the back side of it where he's sitting, it says, "I didn't come this far to come this far."
Mm-hmm.
So I just told him this. When I gave it to him, he took it. He said, "Oh, thank you, I appreciate it." So he left, went in his room, came out. And he's like, "John," he goes, he couldn't thank me enough.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking, it's just I just wanted to say thank you,
mm-hmm.
for what you've done. I know this isn't the end result. That's why I gave you that. Right? You didn't come this far to come this far.
And Sean coming out to thank you and doing it genuinely,
yes.
with emotion. That's him. That's not an act.
No,
that's not someone trying to gain favor or praise. That's really who he is.
Mm-hmm.
He's really that guy. And Brandon too. I've always been struck by how genuine both of them are.
Yep.
Brandon Bean is one of the best men that I've ever been around in terms of just, being able to gravitate towards people and making you feel like part of a group. But they both are just good, genuine people and incredible amount of respect for not only what they've accomplished, but the way they go about doing it.
Yeah. And Pagula, like I said, he used to pull in the parking lot. We say hello to each other, get out. One morning he gets out, comes over to me, and he goes, we say hello to each other every day. He goes, "God, it's warm out here." He goes, "Here." He gave me a Buffalo Bills bucket hat to wear just for and I just said that, you didn't have to do it. You know what I'm saying? Just good people.
For sure.
And my little thing to people out there would be just, let's enjoy what's going on so far. I mean, the Bills are in a better place today than they were years ago. So just have trust in these guys. And
I can't blame fans though for to a degree, like you said, that this is the professional ranks. This is different. being a little frustrated that they haven't gotten all the way. And not that you expect it, because it's so ridiculously hard to do. But the Bills have gotten to a certain level, and just wanting your team to get to the next level, I can appreciate that. Mm-hmm. Not that you're wrong. I mean, what these guys have accomplished and what they continue to do every year should be appreciated. And I was never, last year midseason, when people were talking about Sean McDermott should be fired, I didn't want to go there. I've understood that there's frustration, but there are a lot worse coaches than Sean McDermott. And then he proved it by running off 5 more wins and really kind of fixing the team down the stretch. Mm. Bottom line, that this is a team and a management group that's been very good. And yeah, I get the desire to go further and to want to win a championship, but I don't think you can have that without also, on the other hand, having the appreciation for what continues to be accomplished.
Yes.
One final question I have for you, Thad, is where do you go from here? Obviously, we're in a small market compared to Dallas, Texas, or New York, or LA. Is there a future somewhere else as far as play-by-play, color, national television? We do have a Section 5 Hall of Famer, Rini Ngolia, who's now working his way through the ESPN ranks of college football. Mm-hmm. And obviously his goal is to be up there with Kirk Herbstreit and those guys. But where do you go from here? Are you content with your present spot? Will you be moving on to another level?
That's another good question, George. A couple different things about that. Number one, I really like what I do right now. I work at home. My parents live here. My sister lives here. My wife's sister lives here. My wife's parents live here. So and obviously, I think we'd all agree Rochester is a great town to live in for a lot of different reasons. So I get to be at home. I get to be with family. I get to watch my daughter grow up, and I get to still, cover the Bills 17 games a year, go on the road. If they ever do make a Super Bowl, there's a good chance I'm on the sideline for a Super Bowl. There are very few people who can say that. Mm-hmm. Even if you move on to ESPN, there are so many people who work at ESPN. Their job is to sit inside a studio and watch games on TV all the time. And it's fun to be on ESPN, but I'll tell you what, I would rather cover, 10 high school basketball championships on a Saturday than sit at home and watch, Mercer play Oklahoma State in whatever game they're playing. Yeah. So I really like what I do. That said, the media landscape, as we kind of briefly touched upon before, is changing so much. I can't tell you that in 10, 15 years, there will even be a local TV station. I mean, think about how we all consume media now. If I told you 15 years ago that your cable might be Hulu and Netflix and Amazon Prime, you looked at me like I had 3 eyes, so now to spin it forward, I can't predict what 15 years from now is going to be like. And I still, I'm 47, so I probably still have 15 years of working left in me. I hope it's in media because I like doing it. I hope it's covering the Bills and doing a lot what I do right now because I like doing that too. But what exactly that will be, I don't know. So at this point, I'm trying to, be as varied as possible, not just playing left guard, and not just doing television, podcasting, Instagram, TikTok. I'm TikTok familiar right now. I'm going to go post a TikTok later. So trying to, be as fluent in all those different media, is what the goal is right now. And then really to see where it takes me from there.
Yeah, the reason I asked that is last week we talked to James Johnson from the Democrat Chronicle. I asked him the same question.
Yeah. What was his answer? He might have some clues for me here.
Wow. He had, the print newspaper is just completely
he
devastated.
It's harder for him. I understand.
For him to say, I'm going to write articles for the Democrat. And it's going to come out in the morning and you're going to get your Sunday newspaper. He was very diplomatic in his thought about the print as opposed to the instantaneous media and where his future lies.
Yeah, we're not too dissimilar in that. The other thing I'll say, too, is that for a long time, the answer to that question would also include a caveat for me in that, well, my daughter is X age and, I'm not going anywhere because she's in school and my family's here. Well, my daughter is 16 now. It's going to be empty nest time because we only have one kid. And, soon enough to where, before when you're like, do you go to Dallas or a bigger market? I'm like, no way. My daughter's in school. Well, now, I'm not going to totally discount it. I mean, to the point where if my daughter in 6 years from now is working in Dallas, then I'd probably rather be, I'd rather be down there. I'll move down there myself. So it just kind of adds to the unknown of the future, which is a little disconcerting, but everybody in life goes through it, and just my turn.
Yeah, more so nowadays than
for sure.
before.
For sure.
Are we? I'm pretty good right now.
Yeah. Well, we've gone for an hour.
Yeah,
So it's
Isn't it an hour already? My
yeah,
goodness.
time flies.
Yeah.
It always seems that we sit down and say, okay, 40 minutes, and then you look at the clock and it's an hour and 10.
I have the same problem, by the way.
Good
Yeah. So, anyways, I just want to say thank you for. I mean, you're just awesome to have. Love to have you on again sometime.
Absolutely, John. Happy to do it.
Before we go any further, there's some things I'm still learning. Is make sure you subscribe.
That's
everybody out there, right? It does us a great help. Please subscribe to our channel, make it grow, and that's all we're looking for. If you have any comments, I promise how about this? By next week, we're going to have call-ins.
Okay.
So that's another step as far as me out of my comfort zone.
You are not afraid to add different layers to this, are you?
No.
Let's not forget, too, that your co-host,
he'll be back.
The guy stood in for a couple weeks.
Yes.
Paul Burgandy, the longtime Hall of Fame coach out of East High School.
Yes, sir.
Will be back from his vacation.
Yep.
He'll be taking my spot, but I wanted to say thank you, John, for having me as your co-host for a couple of
thank you.
sessions. And I know that the lineup coming after Thad here is long list of who's who in Section 5 football, or has been for many years.
I just want to say, first things first, thank you for being here. I really appreciate it.
A lot of fun.
This is my number one guy.
Yeah.
Like I said, he got me when I was out of high school, when I first started coaching in 1982.
Mm-hmm.
This man took me in, and can never thank him enough for that. And
I'm sure you're not the only one. George has been around for quite a while. You've been teaching a lot of good coaches.
Well, I'm still carrying John on my back for 40 years. My back hurts, my knees hurt. But anyways, it's been a lot of fun, Johnny. And I'm really proud of the fact that you were mentioned this last year, saying that you were going to put a podcast together. And it was like, yeah, we'll see when it happens. But you've put it together.
Yeah.
And you've had some great guests.
Yes. I'm just, this is fun. And talking football, I love talking about it. Can't talk enough about football. As far as upcoming people, next week, my partner Paul will be back, and we have help me,
Dave Marine,
yes,
from Wayne.
From Wayne, he's a head
he wears a lot of hats in Section 5.
He is the head girls flag football.
I love that's happening, by the way. So I mean, great to see girls get a chance to play football, and they, so quick story. Carl Jones, who works at my station, former Syracuse Division I corner, went out and covered his first flag football game. Thought, it's going to be kind of laid back. And he gets there, and coaches are yelling out, hardcore football stuff, like, get on the one, drop back into palms and stuff. And Carl's blown away, like, they're playing real ball. They're not tackling, but they're playing real ball. Yeah. So it's great to see the girls be able to do that.
Well, one thing Paul said when we were talking about this a couple episodes ago, last year, girls started for the first time. Mm-hmm. They had 8 teams. This year, there's 31 teams.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, which I think is awesome.
Absolutely.
Anything that has to do with football. So, he'll be with us in 2 weeks. 2 weeks after that, then we are going to have on McCabe.
Pete McCabe, the officials.
Talk to us a little bit about officials and whatever, trying to maybe help get some officials maybe involved.
Always need that. Official shortage is a big problem just about every sport.
Yeah, so maybe help that along a little bit. Then after that, we get into rivals. And our first rivals is going to be Dave Neiman, representing Aquinas.
Yeah.
And Bobby Bates
from McQuaid. Love it.
So we're going to have those two guys in and, just go back and forth. I mean, McQuaid's got the upper hand right now. And
speaking of that, I know we're long, but I want to ask anyway, what's your guys' take on Leroy and Calmon combining?
Well, that's Mike Monticelli I'm going to have in the 8th of April.
Okay.
And that's going to be probably our whole talking.
Probably, yeah.
Because you don't know this. I think you may. My father's from Caledonia. My mother's from Leroy.
Oh.
So I went to many Calmon Leroy games.
Yeah. Who'd you root for?
Calmon.
Okay.
And is one of his close friends, Jim Lemline,
yes,
who was the Leroy coach and a part of that great rivalry. If he hears that, Johnny's going to be a little upset. But anyways, and then, of course, the great Don Quinn and Dave Lanning for Fairport.
Oh, yeah.
East Rochester.
Dave was there forever.
Yeah. Actually, Dave played for Don Quinn
at East Rochester.
So, all right, you got to say hello to me to Paul, Dave Neiman, Monticelli, Dave,
sure,
all those guys.
Bobby Bates.
Bates.
Yeah.
I can leave Bobby Bates. I was getting mad. I shouldn't say that. Yeah, all the great guys, great men.
Yeah, so it's going to be a lot of fun. It's just, and they're all friends. You know, we're all friends. And during the season, we're going to be broadcasting from your old head coach's place.
Joe Muno?
Joe Muno's place. We're going to be a premiere.
Oh, that's great.
On Wednesdays during the season.
Yeah.
And what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the games that were just played.
Yeah.
And then the upcoming games this week. And then at the end of it, we're going to give out a Player of the Week award.
Nice.
And along with that is we have a gift certificate from Sticky Lips. We're going to give to the young man that gets the award every week, certificate to Sticky Lips. So
you have to check if I have any eligibility left now for Sticky Lips.
Well, you know,
I gotta pick that.
Yeah, all that other crap. So, anyways, yeah, it's just something that Paul and I, we just started up and we're just loving it.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Well, good luck to you guys. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Gee, anything?
Not at all. I'm really happy with the fact that he was here. In fact, there was one caller that came in tonight. It was Mr. Bob Ebert from Aquinas Institute.
Oh, yeah.
And he wanted to say thank you to Thad Brown for his presentation of his Hall of Fame plaque.
That's right.
I don't know if you remember that.
Yep.
And he says that meant quite a bit to him. So
Bob's great,
wanted
man.
to send
great people.
a congratulatory.
I very much appreciate that. Yeah.
And that's awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Appreciate your help being here and all that. Gee, thank you.
Thanks, man.
And now we end it. We didn't talk about this, but when we end, we're just going to look into the camera and say, keeping it real.
All right.
Section 5 football. Ready?
1, 2, 3 or something? Or
1,
no?
2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
Keeping it real. Section 5 football.
Have a great night.